There we go. Let me pull up this report. I hope everybody can see this. But thanks for the opportunity to share this report that Weber Shandwick put together earlier this year, which looks at the different demands being placed on businesses and global organizations as they are navigating both global challenges. During the pandemic, they were asked to solve global challenges with global solutions as global businesses. At the same time, there was a rise in national priorities that was really fracturing the landscape. So how do they navigate this global remit amid China Standards 2035, amid Brazil above everything, made in all of America, make in India, Brexit? So we wanted to get to the heart of how executives were balancing those priorities. So here's what we did. In 12 countries, we spoke with 1,200 leaders of multinational organizations, all very senior, either C-suite or reporting directly to the C-suite, all large multinationals operating in multiple countries. And when we say the word home country in this report, home country as stakeholder, we mean the country where the multinational is headquartered. And we spoke to American executives of American-based multinationals, Swedish executives of Swedish-based multinationals for purposes of this study. So here's what we found when it comes to home country and the home country stakeholder. We found that 58% of executives worldwide say that their home country, the country where their company is headquartered, is a critical stakeholder to their business. And not only did they say it was critical, but it was on par with customers and with shareholders. This is really compelling in the era and amid the conversation about stakeholder capitalism and a time in which businesses are supposed to serve all stakeholders who matter. Executives are saying home country is a stakeholder too. In fact, 58% of them here, just under customers, are saying that home country is a very important stakeholder to their business. And this wasn't just a phenomenon in one country. As you can see here, in 9 of the 12 markets that we surveyed, executives rate their home country a top 3 stakeholder. In 10 of the markets, it was a top 5. So again, not limited to one country, but if you're a business doing operating in each of these markets, you have to balance a lot of the different national priorities and interests that are driving the political landscape in each of these countries. And if we looked at just the senior most decision makers that we surveyed, CEOs and corporate presidents across the world, they rated their home country as the top stakeholder to their business here, above customers, above the financial community, suppliers, and partners. So executives were telling us very loud and clear that their home country matters to how they do business across the globe. And then we wanted to get into the heart of, okay, so if home country is a critical stakeholder to your business, what does that mean for how you make decisions and how you're operating? Well, first, executives told us that home country interests, the national interest of their home country, is critical to their decision making. You'll see here on the left, 62% of executives worldwide said that their national interest was very important to how they make business decisions. And you can see across the countries that we surveyed, significant numbers here saying it's a critical part of their decision making. Another very compelling finding when it comes to business decision making is the national security factor. In fact, national security exceeded even diversity and inclusion, ESG, and climate change when it comes to how executives are making decisions for how they do business across the world. You'll see cybersecurity, data privacy, impact on corporate and brand reputation in the top 3 decision-making factors for multinational business executives. And then you have national security here. And it's not interesting in and of itself, but if you look at the fact that it is 6 to 10 points higher than D&I, than human rights, than ESG and climate change. Again, not something you hear multinational business leaders talking about a lot, but they're saying that it is very core to how they make decisions when they're doing business globally. And finally, what does this all mean for the new risks and the new opportunities for organizations doing business worldwide as home country becomes an important stakeholder, as national security becomes a business factor? First, executives told us that they believe their vulnerability to geopolitical risk is going to grow. So all of these dynamics coming together, only increasing their vulnerability to the state of geopolitics. 47% feel more vulnerable today than they did 5 years ago. 41% expect to feel more vulnerable 5 years from now. So their vulnerability on the rise. And then if you ask executives worldwide, what are the geopolitical issues, the top risks that they see to their business? Relatively unsurprisingly, pandemics tops the list. We're still navigating the COVID-19 pandemic. You also have cyber attacks and data privacy in the top three. These are things you're hearing in the news almost on a daily basis. But I'll also draw your attention to disinformation here. Nearly half, 49% of executives across the world said that their company was very concerned when it comes to disinformation about their company. Also equally interesting and somewhat surprising are these things on the right, the bottom tier concerns that were relatively low on the geopolitical risk agenda, but dominating really media and business conversations today: gender, ethnic, and racial discrimination, attacks on press freedom, the rise of populism. Executives were telling us those aren't as top of mind from a geopolitical risk perspective as some of these other items, including disinformation today. There's also a really interesting employee challenge when it comes to geopolitical tensions today. 8 in 10 executives said that they were very concerned about the impact of geopolitical tensions on their own employees. 82% think it's going to negatively impact the commitment of employees working outside of their home country. 77% believe that geopolitical tensions are going to make it harder to recruit talent outside of their home country. So interesting in that geopolitical tensions may actually surface internally first before executives are seeing the impacts from outside. Executives also told us as they're feeling more pressure domestically, and we see that a lot here in the United States, as they're feeling more pressure to speak out on political and social issues, they also believe that they have to be prepared to take a more public position on geopolitical issues, matters of international importance. You can see the numbers are very high across all the markets that we surveyed. 87% of all executives agree that they've got to prepare to take a more public position. You can imagine this presents an increase of risk as they are speaking out on issues in which there are different perspectives, competing values, competing interests across their global footprint. So creating more opportunity for risk and a greater requirement for diplomacy as they navigate those diverging interests. And then finally, amid all of this, amid the rise of the home country stakeholder, amid this feeling of increasing vulnerability to geopolitical risk, amid this pressure to speak out on geopolitical issues, executives told us they are feeling very unprepared. 74%, so nearly 3/4 of executives say that their company is more reactive than proactive when it comes to geopolitical risk. And 56% said that their company's senior leadership doesn't prepare well for geopolitical risk. The same number said just as much about their boards not preparing well for geopolitical risk. So a lot of very interesting trends, the state of the geopolitical landscape, the rise of national priorities and competition between nations, creating a lot of risk for businesses doing business globally and navigating these competing interests across their global footprint as they now are prioritizing their home country stakeholder. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Hannah.